January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and the HPV vaccine is one of the best ways to prevent cervical cancer. We start the HPV vaccine series at ages 9 through 12, so let's talk about it. Dr. Brandon Meyer, Sanford Health Pediatrician, is with us now on KFGO. Dr. Meyer, welcome to KFGO Radio.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, tell us about the HPV vaccine for people like JJ and myself. This is new information because when we were 9 to 12, this didn't exist yet.
Yeah. So the HPV vaccine has been widely available for about the last 20-ish plus years, and so I don't want to make any comments on your ages, and I'm not going to make any assumptions at all.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, for a lot of
we're happy to be where we're at. We're happy to be.
Aging is the goal, right?
Yes.
Like to grow old is the goal.
You got it.
And that's really what HPV vaccination is all about, right? In pediatrics, I'm a general pediatrician. I see kids for their well checks as well as for coughs and colds and all that kind of stuff. But we're all about preventative care, so that we can set up these kids to live a long and healthy lives. And HPV vaccination is part of that. And we really like to start that nowadays at around age 9 to start that vaccination.
Why do they need it?
So HPV, or human papillomavirus, is a pretty mean virus that is almost ubiquitous in humans. Like something up to 70 or 80% of people will be infected by some form of this virus at some point in their life. And some of these HPV viruses end up causing cancer, the most famous of which and the most studied is cervical cancer in women. However, HPV can cause a number of other cancers in both men and women, including cancers of the genital tract, of the head and neck, and so it's really important to protect yourself the best that you can.
So, why do they need an HPV vaccine at such a young age? And I'm just trying to come up with questions that probably you're hearing from every typical parent as they walk in.
Absolutely, that's why I'm so comfortable answering these questions. So thank you. And so we've found that kids' immune systems are very, very good at turning the immunity that they gain from vaccines into long-term immunity, even better than adults are. And so that's why you might need your tetanus booster every so once in a while as you're an adult, but kids don't need them quite as much. But yeah, so a lot of it has to do with just the way that children's immune systems are. And also again, this is primarily a cancer-preventing vaccine, and it works best and is most studied for kids in this kind of pre-adolescent age, 9 to 11 or 12.
Do people worry about HPV causing fertility issues?
I get that question every once in a while, but it's not that common of a question. So HPV infection itself definitely can cause fertility issues later on in life. HPV vaccination, now that it's been studied for a good 20, actually it's been studied for even longer than that. It's been available on the market for 20 years or so, but it's been studied for, there's usually a few year gap before it reaches market. And so there have not been any issues with fertility for people who receive the vaccine versus those who don't.
What about the age demographic that they're not a kid? I remember when the HPV vaccine became available, it was like up to 20 something. We even, I think, somehow kind of aged out of that range as well. But are people encouraged to get the HPV vaccine even in their 20s or 30s if they haven't received it as a child?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, actually. So as a pediatrician, I typically don't see patients in their 20s. However, being kind of the vaccine expert for Sanford and Fargo, the HPV vaccine is licensed for use in people up to age 45 even in the United States. Certain insurance coverage might be kind of funny. So if you are an adult, basically, in your 20s, 30s, or even early 40s, I would, talk to your insurance carrier and see if they will cover HPV vaccine if you're interested. And if you haven't received the HPV vaccine, I strongly recommend it to you because you just the best thing we can do rather than treat disease is to prevent disease, and that's really what pediatrics is all about.
And doctor, I find one of the most difficult things about HPV is you cannot know that you have it at all. There are signs from complications of things with it, but it's not like you walk around and you regularly say, "Oh, I got my HPV test today."
Yeah, exactly, and that's one of the biggest things why, again, prevention is so important, and that's why we do Pap smears. That's why we do even further diagnostic testing for people to check if they do have HPV infections, because it can lay dormant, it can lay silent until many years later and cause really terrible cancers later on in life.
Dr. Brandon Meyer, Sanford Health Pediatrician. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And again, the HPV vaccine is one of the best ways to prevent cervical cancer. And we start that vaccine at ages 9 to 12. So ask your pediatrician about it. Dr. Meyer, thanks so much for being with us here on KFGO. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
This is It Takes Two. Amy Eiler, JJ Gordon here on KFGO. A quick weather update up next.